A class debate is a great way to let students practice their speaking and listening skills. Here's an example from Cool Careers in Environmental Sciences. Students read about wildlife biologist Jennifer Fortin, who studies bears in Yellowstone National Park. She has found that an invasive species of trout is threatening the bear's food supply. Then the book poses a question: how should wildlife biologists deal with invasive species?
Jorge, on page 29, can you please read the first paragraph under what would you do?
Invasive species are a problem in many ecosystems, from non-native plants like kudzu in Georgia to bark beetles in Wyoming. If you were a wildlife biologist, how would you solve the problem? Would you relocate the invaders to an area where they will do less harm, or would you wipe out the invasive species?
That's a good question. Let's take a class poll. How many think that wildlife biologists should relocate invasive species? About 12 of you. And then how many think that they should wipe out invasive species? So many more hands just went up. About 20 of you. Okay, now we're going to have a debate about invasive species. One team will represent relocation of invasive species, and the other team will represent the position of wiping out invasive species. All right, let's go. Come on.
First, group students in teams. Then have students research invasive species. Each team should designate a person to give an opening statement and a person to give a closing statement.
Okay, now that you've finished all your research, we're going to start our debate. Please remember to be polite and listen attentively. Also, if you're going to say something, remember to have supporting facts for all your reasons. I will be your moderator, so if you have any questions and you need to raise your hand in between, you can. But we're going to start us off, and Lucy will deliver the first opening statement for the relocation team.
Okay, so some invasive plants or animals may have to be killed, but some could be moved to new homes. For instance, the mute swan is an invasive species in the eastern U.S. The swans were brought here from Europe in the 1800s. They compete with native birds, but do they need to be killed? They didn't ask to be brought here. It would be fair to trap them. Then they could live in zoos or be taken back to Europe. Other invasive species could be...
Okay, now we will hear from the wipeout team from Elliott.
You just have to look at the harm invasive species do to see if they need to be eliminated. For instance, Burmese pythons from Southeast Asia are living and breeding in the Florida Everglades. They eat all kinds of animals, including deer, and they even fight with alligators. Can wildlife officers really find new homes for thousands of huge pythons? Would you want them in your neighborhood?
After the debate, take another poll to see if any minds have been changed.
Okay, class, that was a great debate. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you think we should relocate invasive species? Wow, looks like relocation of species got some support. Now, who is for wiping out of invasive species? Good. All right. And then can I hear from somebody why they changed their mind? Israel.
I think some invasive species will have to be killed. I don't want one of those pythons in my yard. But now I think some animals like the swans could be moved to new homes.
Good. Great job, class.
You can see that a class debate offers a fun and engaging way for students to practice many Common Core speaking and listening skills. Once students are introduced to the debate format, you can apply the same strategy across all content areas.